Musicians and this wonderful choir today, the Spirit of David, and I would that you would go with me to the book of Daniel. In Daniel chapter 6, as we have been sort of orchestrating our way through the prayers of the Bible, and all of Daniel's prayers need to be studied, particularly the prayer of confession that he makes for the whole nation of Israel. But this incident is wrapped around a problem. Generally, prayer is stimulated by having a problem. Breaks us down to the place where we just have to talk to God. Now, the problem is in the first part of this, and I'm going to pray see the second part, and then I'm going to read through the third part, and I'm going to read very fast when I get to verse 10. But Darius, of course, is the king, and in chapter 6, he sets first princes, and he put to give account for the nation. Verse 3 says, "Then Daniel was preferred above the presidents and princes, because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king thought to set him over the realm." Problem. Should I read that again, or do you know that that was a problem? Because verse 4 says, "The presidents and princes sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the kingdom, but they could find none occasion nor fault, for as much as he was faithful, neither was there any error or fault found in him." That's a problem. Whenever God blesses you and the haters show up, you got a problem. Then said these men, "We shall not find any occasion against Daniel, except we find it against him concerning the law of his God." And then they started plotting, and then there was a problem. Now when Daniel knew, and what happened was, they made a decree that nobody should pray to any man or God, ask any man or God of anything save the king, Darius. And when he signed it, it was now the law of the Medes and the Persians, and he can't even change it himself. So now verse 10, "Now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went into his house, and his windows being open in his chamber toward Jerusalem, he kneeled upon his knees 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks before his God as he did aforetime. Then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God. Then they came near and spoke before the king concerning the king's decree. Hast thou not signed the decree that every man that shall ask a petition of any man or God within 30 days, save of thee, O king, shall be cast into the den of the lions? The king answered and said, The thing is true according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which altereth not. Then answered they and said unto before the king, that Daniel, which is of the children of the captivity of Judah, regardeth not thee, O king, nor the decree that thou hast signed, but maketh his petition 3 times a day. Then the king, when he heard these words, was sore displeased." Who was he displeased with? Of course, because he liked Daniel. And he set his heart on Daniel to deliver him. And he labored till the going down of the sun to deliver him. But when your enemies want you, then these men assembled unto the king and said, "King, know, O king, that the law of the Medes and the Persians is that no decree nor statute which the king established may be changed." Then the king commanded, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. Now the king spake and said, "Daniel, thy God whom thou servest continually, he will deliver thee." And a stone was brought and laid upon the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet, with the signet of his lord, that the purpose might not be changed concerning Daniel. Then the king went to his palace, passed the night fasting, neither were there instruments of music brought before him, and his sleep went from him. Then the king arose up early in the morning, went in haste unto the lion's den, and when he came to the den, he cried with a lamentable voice unto Daniel. And the king spake unto Daniel, "O Daniel, servant of the living God, is thy God whom thou servest continually able to deliver thee from the lions?" Then said Daniel unto the king, "O king, live forever. For God has sent his angel and shut the lion's mouth. They have not hurt me, for as much as before in him innocence was found in me. Also before thee, O king, have I done no harm. Then the king was exceeding glad for him, and commanded they should take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den. No manner of hurt was found upon him, because he believed in his God. It wasn't over yet. And the king said, all right, since you all want to put Daniel in the lions, then. He cast them in the den of lions, them, their children, and their wives. You better not be married to a hater. Amen. And the lions had the mastery of them break all their bones in pieces, and they came at the bottom. Look at somebody and say, I'm only guilty of being blessed. Look at somebody else and tell them, I'm only guilty of having favor. That's all I got. Daniel's name is significant, and if you understand the Old Testament and maybe even in the New Testament, particularly with Peter, when the name change was orchestrated from, well, he orchestrated a name change. He said, upon this rock, Petra, I'll build my church. And he orchestrated a name change when he dealt with Jacob, took him from Jacob to Israel. And when you understand that there's a prophetic utterance when names were given, and the names had a great deal to do with the character of the individuals who were named. When you look at Moses, you look at all of the names, Ezekiel, all of them have some significance in what God wants to tell us about the individual in whom a name was given. And Daniel's name is significant because Daniel's name means that God is my judge. And anytime there is judgment, or anytime you have a judge, it's because somewhere along the line you have to have a trial. There's no necessity for a judge if there isn't a trial. And I'm not speaking in a formal sense necessarily, because each one of us have had to deal with issues of life in which other people made judgments or other people became our judges. I don't think there's anybody in here who has not had to endure in one manner or other the opinion of other people. You had to deal with what people said based on what you did or based on what you didn't do. But much of their conclusions are in error because they don't have all the facts. If anybody is going to be significant in his judgment of you and I, then it has to be God, because he has all of the facts. And because he's a righteous judge, he does not judge you subjectively based on how he feels about you, but he judges you objectively based on what it is he needs to form an opinion for. It's a good thing whenever he judges. It's a wonderful thing when God judges, because when he is your judge, he operates in his judgment with mercy and with grace. And it is an interesting dynamic that people who are as faulty as you are seem to be the hardest people when it comes to an opinion of you. People who are judging with motes or beams in their eyes. You got to get the beam out of your eye. But God's eyes are lucid. God's eyes are clear. And when he judges not on the surface, but he judges even the motive, even the reasoning of the heart. I think Daniel was very happy that God is his judge. Because if God is his judge and he ends up in the lion's den because of haters, his judge will make sure that his innocence will not be rewarded by somebody's ultimate punishment of death. It's a remarkable thing, the statement about Daniel. And yet still there is something else about him that we cannot ignore. And that is that Daniel had an excellent spirit. Ooh, I feel good today. You see, an excellent spirit controls then his mind, because God never intended for the flesh or the outside to control the mind. If he has an excellent spirit, then he is not touched by what is on the outside, and his mind is radically controlled by what's on the inside. What's on the outside brings you nothing but anxiety, because it is temporary, it is ephemeral, it is always changing. And so he couldn't be constant or consistent if he operates with the flow of what is on the outside. Anytime you have an excellent spirit, and the word excellent here comes yitar from the Hebrew, and what it means is preeminent or surpassing. He has a spirit then that is not common to everybody. He has a charisma, a persona. He has a way about him that everybody does not have, because he's not moved by outside circumstances, because he's rooted and grounded in the spirit of the Lord. I can see it coming now, and I can see the excellence in Daniel bringing daggers out of the eyes of others, because here comes Daniel in the smooth flow of a disconnected to the world but connected to God attitude, in the full flow of a disposition that is not controlled by others, only controlled by God. And people don't like it when they can't control you. Oh, I feel it here. The excellent spirit sort of moves in a manner that allows him to be cool in the most adverse circumstance. I thought about it, and I thought about the commercial that dealt with the truck and the cab. Let's see. The wheels are bouncing on a railroad track and a surface that is not smooth, and they have a series of bulbs that are aligning the railroad track, and the series of bulbs on the bottom, series of bulbs on the top, and the wheels are bouncing up and down, and they have a stick that hangs out from the wheel. The wheels are bouncing up and down because it's going over the railroad ties, and every time it comes up, it hits the bulb on top, hits the bulb on bottom, and it's shattering bulbs as it goes. Now in the cab there is another rod that is between some bulbs on the top, and while the ones on the bottom are breaking all the bulbs, the one on the top is going through the bulbs and isn't moving at all. Between the wheels that's running on life and between your spirit, there is a shock absorber. You see, God becomes your shock absorber. So even though the bottom of your life is running on a whole lot of undulating and vicissitudinous changing circumstances, you are still calm because you are connected to the Spirit of God, and the things that are going up and down don't cause you to lose your mind or break your circumstance. There's a cool that comes when you have an excellent spirit. Oh, I feel like preaching here. Daniel, can I take it further? Not only did Daniel have a yitir, but and a condition that is not common to men, because Daniel was not a priest like Jeremiah or Ezekiel, but Daniel had more qualities of Isaiah, because